8 legendary pastors who fell from grace. They were untouchable, revered, followed by millions. Their voices echoed through packed churches, their names etched into Christian history. But behind the sermons were secrets, affairs, addictions, scandals so wild they made headlines around the world. This isn't just gossip. It's the fall of men once called God's generals. Stick around for number 4, because once you hear what really happened at his church, you might never trust a miracle again. And if you think it's shocking now, just wait till number 1. That story, it will shake your soul. These are the 8 legendary pastors who fell from grace and the jaw-dropping truths behind their downfall. At number 8, Carlton Pearson. He was once hailed as the next Billy Graham, a charismatic bishop commanding packed stadiums with his fiery sermons and healing crusades. Carlton Pearson wasn't just famous, he was beloved. He led one of the largest churches in Tulsa, Oklahoma with over 5,000 members. He sang with legends like Aretha Franklin and mentored rising gospel stars. People flew across the country just to hear him preach. But then, one day, he heard a voice, and it changed everything. In the late 90s, Pearson claimed that God told him something radical. Hell wasn't real. He started preaching what he called the gospel of inclusion, saying everyone, even atheists, Muslims, murderers, were already saved. How can a loving God condemn billions of people to eternal torment, he asked. The backlash was instant and brutal. The Joint College of African American Pentecostal Bishops labeled him a heretic. His church collapsed. Members left in droves. Longtime friends abandoned him. He went from being a Christian superstar to a spiritual outcast almost overnight. From revival tents to silence, Carlton Pearson became the preacher who lost it all, not because of scandal, but because of belief. Today, he's still preaching quietly outside mainstream Christianity. His story was even turned into a Netflix movie, Come Sunday, starring Chiwetel Ejiofor. But ask anyone from the old days and they'll tell you he flew too close to the sun. And from one jaw-dropping downfall to the next, number 7's story is a tangled web of power, secrets, and betrayal. The kind that shakes an entire congregation to its core. 7. Bishop Eddie Long. Long drove Bentleys, wore custom-tailored suits, and built a church empire so massive it looked more like a kingdom than a ministry. Bishop Eddie Long was the man in Atlanta. As the senior pastor of New Birth Missionary Baptist Church, he turned a 300-member church into a 25,000-strong megachurch with satellite campuses, a private school, and even a real estate company. He called himself a king. His followers called him Daddy. He laid hands on celebrities, marched with civil rights leaders, and wasn't shy about flexing his wealth. Long even led a controversial coronation ceremony where he was wrapped in a Torah scroll and lifted on a throne in a church. But then came the lawsuits. 4 young men, allegations of sexual coercion, secret trips, lavish gifts, midnight texts. They claimed Long used his power, wealth, and spiritual influence to manipulate them when they were teens. The church went silent. Long denied the claims from the pulpit but never went to trial. Instead, the lawsuits were settled quietly out of court. The damage? Done. His reputation? Shattered. Attendance at New Birth dropped by thousands. The man who once strutted across the stage with swagger became a shadow of himself. His once golden empire? Cracking. In 2017, Eddie Long died from an aggressive form of cancer. He was 63. Some saw it as tragic. Others said it was judgment. A king who fell, not by sword or scandalous headline alone, but by secrets buried in silence. If you thought that was intense, wait till you hear about number 6, a preacher whose scandal broke the very foundation of his ministry. 6. Jimmy Swaggart. He was once the golden boy of American televangelism, preaching fire and brimstone on over 3,000 TV stations every single week. Jimmy Swaggart wasn't just popular, he was a media empire. Millions tuned in every Sunday. He was cousins with rock legends Jerry Lee Lewis and Mickey Gilley, but Swaggart chose God and gospel over fame and fortune. That is, until the cameras caught him somewhere he wasn't supposed to be. In 1988, a rival pastor exposed Swaggart for hiring a sex worker in a Louisiana motel. The photos? Damning. The headlines? Explosive. Then came the infamous moment. Swaggart stood before the world, tears streaming down his face, and choked out, "I have sinned against you, my Lord." The confession went viral, before viral was even a thing. But it didn't end there. Just a few years later, he was caught again. Another motel, another woman, and this time, no tears, just defiance. "The Lord told me it's flat none of your business," he told reporters. His ministry survived, barely, but he was never the same. The mighty platform he built now lives in the shadows of his past. And while he still preaches to this day, it's with a fraction of the influence he once held. The rise, global. The fall, humiliating. Jimmy Swaggart was proof. Sometimes the biggest enemy isn't the devil, it's your own desire. The drama only gets deeper. At number 5, we meet a pastor whose secret life behind closed doors completely shattered his empire. 5. Ted Haggard. He had the ear of the president, led 30 million evangelicals, and preached about family values like his life depended on it. Ted Haggard was the man behind the National Association of Evangelicals. He advised George W. Bush. He was charming, powerful, and had a megachurch in Colorado Springs that packed 14,000 people every Sunday. But behind the holy image was a secret double life. In 2006, a bomb dropped. A male escort named Mike Jones came forward claiming Haggard had been paying him for sex and for meth. Yeah, meth. At first, Haggard denied everything. He said he didn't know the man. Then he admitted to buying meth, but claimed he threw it away. Finally, he confessed to sexual immorality, and everything unraveled. His leadership roles? Gone. His church? Stripped him of power. His reputation? Shattered. And just when people thought it couldn't get messier, a few years later more men came forward, alleging inappropriate behavior going way back. Ted Haggard became the symbol of hypocrisy, preaching purity while living in secret chaos. Eventually he started a new church in his house, smaller, quieter. But the damage had been done. He once told the world how to live, but in the end, his own house was built on sand. And here comes the one we warned you about. Number 4 story, it still gives people chills. 4th T.B. Joshua. He was called the prophet, a man of mystery, a man of power, a man whose followers believed he could heal the sick, raise the dead, and see the future. Temitope Balogun Joshua, better known as T.B. Joshua, founded the Synagogue Church of All Nations in Lagos, Nigeria. From Lagos to London, Accra to Argentina, people flew across continents just to touch him. Presidents knelt before him. Celebrities sang his praises. TV channels broadcast his every move. His miracles? Mind-blowing, or so it seemed. He healed cancer, delivered people from demons, predicted world events. His anointing water was said to cure everything from poverty to paralysis. But behind the scenes, a storm was brewing. In 2014, tragedy struck. One of his guesthouse buildings collapsed, killing 116 people, most of them South African pilgrims. The Nigerian government blamed shoddy construction. Joshua claimed it was a strange aircraft and spiritual attack, but no matter how you spun it, 116 lives were lost, and accountability was nowhere to be found. And then came the allegations. In the years before and after his sudden death in 2021, former disciples, journalists, and whistleblowers began speaking up. Reports of abuse, mind control, fake miracles, financial exploitation. Even BBC and Open Democracy ran major exposés in 2023, and the stories were chilling. He died as mysteriously as he lived, in the middle of a service. No confirmed cause of death, just gone. To this day, many still revere him. Others call his legacy one of the greatest spiritual manipulations in modern African history. T.B. Joshua built a kingdom of signs and wonders. But behind the curtain, the truth was far darker than anyone imagined. While that was unraveling, another empire was already cracking. Let's get into number 3. 3. Jim Bakker. In the 1970s and 80s, Jim Bakker was the face of televangelism, reaching millions with his charismatic preaching and promises of miracles. He built the PTL, Praise the Lord Club, a TV empire with a Christian theme park called Heritage USA. It was his kingdom, and he ruled it with style and spectacle. But beneath the glitz was a toxic web of lies. In 1987, a storm broke loose. Bakker was accused of fraud and conspiracy after it was revealed he used ministry funds to pay hush money to a woman who claimed to have had an affair with him. The scandal rocked the Christian world. The money? Misused? The trust? Broken. Bakker was sentenced to 45 years in prison, though he served about 5 for his crimes. After his release, he tried to rebuild his ministry, but the shadow of his past never left him. His story is a cautionary tale of how power and greed can twist even the holiest missions. Number 2, hit the world like a spiritual earthquake, and the fallout was global. 2. Robert Tilton. In the 1980s and 90s, Robert Tilton was a televangelist sensation, preaching the prosperity gospel, promising wealth and health to anyone who sent him money. His TV show reached millions. He was famous for dramatic healing services and miracles that often seemed staged. But in 1991, 2020 aired a shocking investigation. Hidden cameras caught Tilton's ministry discarding prayer requests unopened while the televangelist urged viewers to keep sending money. The scandal blew up nationwide, leading to congressional hearings and a massive credibility hit for prosperity gospel preachers. Tilton vanished from the mainstream spotlight but quietly rebuilt a smaller following online. His story exposed the dark side of televangelism, where faith and money mixed in dangerous ways. And now, the most heartbreaking fall of them all. Number 1 shook the very core of modern-day televangelism. 1. Oral Roberts. Oral Roberts was one of the most influential televangelists ever, pioneering TV evangelism and healing ministries. In 1987, Roberts shocked the world by claiming God told him if he didn't raise $8 million by a deadline, he would die. His followers scrambled to give. TV networks covered every desperate plea. And he recovered. But decades later, many questioned the legitimacy of that fundraising stunt, accusing Roberts of fear-mongering and exploiting faith for money. His ministry faced constant financial scandals, leadership battles, and criticism for the prosperity gospel he preached. Oral Roberts' story is a complicated mix of faith, controversy, and tragedy, showing how power and pressure can blur the lines between divine calling and human ambition. These 8 legendary pastors rose to unimaginable heights, only to fall hard, reminding us that behind every pulpit, there's a human story filled with temptation, failure, and sometimes redemption. But here's the question: how much of what we see in faith leaders is real, and how much is just a carefully crafted image? So yeah, turns out even God's generals bleed like the rest of us. Power, money, fame, mix it with religion? That's a dangerous cocktail. These weren't just scandals, they were wake-up calls. They are a cautionary tale about the cost of power and the fragility of faith. And if you made it this far, you already know what to do. Like, comment your thoughts and hit that subscribe button for more stories they don't teach on Sunday. See you in the comments.